Go ahead and call the SBF Steering Committee meeting to order. We have a little bit of a different starting because we don't have a chairperson or a vice chairperson yet, but we will get to that in a minute. And so we'd like to just announce the steering committee members for this year. From the city, David Pittman, Scott Thompson, and from Feather River Recreation Park District, Shannon DeLong and Sonny Brandt. The city has one additional seat to fill. Tentatively, it's Christy Riggs, who is sitting up there to kind of get a feel of what we do at these meetings. But she, until she's officially appointed, will not be allowed to cast a vote. Okay? And so with that, if we could stand and we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so the first order of business, and for the elected sitting up there, it's a loose piece of paper because for some reason it didn't get into the printed packet. But the election of the SBF steering committee member, steering committee chairperson and vice chairperson. And it is set out in the exhibit from the official DWR settlement. And I included, which you do have in your packet, on page 5, a complete listing of the chairperson, and vice chairpersons since we began having the committee meetings in 2006. The last 2 years, the chairperson has been from the Feather River Recreation Park District. So therefore, this year, the chairperson needs to be somebody from the city of Oroville. The vice chair can be from either the district or the city. So with that, I'll kind of putting on my chairperson hat for a minute here, open that up for a nomination for chairperson.
Go. You mean we can't select who we want? We do have in our bylaws, so to speak?
It's in the official bylaws.
Official bylaws.
That is in the settlement agreement, and it says that every 2 years it has to rotate. The previous 2 years, the chairperson has been from the Park District, and so therefore for 2023, the chair has to be one of the 2 official members and the unofficial member from the city of Oroville. But yeah, certainly you can pick from that choice.
I move we have David Pittman as our board chairman.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, call the roll, please.
Committee member Brandt,
Yes.
committee member Pittman,
Yes.
committee member DeLong,
Yes.
committee member Thompson,
Absent.
and committee member Riggs.
She can't vote.
Okay.
So we do have
No
a majority. Mr. Pittman, you are the official chairperson.
Thanks, sir.
And with that, I'll flip the hat to you, and you can now do the calling for a vice chairperson.
Well, I'll move that we nominate Shannon DeLong for the vice chair.
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded. Let's have a call for the roll, please. Oh, we got buttons now?
Yep. Motion carries with 3 yeses and 1 absent.
All right. Thank you all. Do you have an agenda? Thank you. I don't have an agenda. My email here wasn't working. I had to get my email working. So let's look at the next item here. We'll call regular business, consent, regular business first.
Correct.
Done, so Consent calendar, approval of the minutes from the October 26, 2022 meeting. And then the quarterly financial update are on the consent calendar. Do I have any motions on the consent calendar, any alterations or corrections to make?
Mr. Pittman, or
Yeah.
Chairperson Pittman?
Yes.
Okay, in front of each of you, because at the time of publishing, we did not have the information from the City of Oroville Finance Department.
Okay.
So I did put a printed copy in front of you that shows the cash flow projections for the fiscal year 2022-23.
That's this sheet here, okay.
And probably the number that everybody wants to really focus on is that after all encumbrances and allowances for the consulting service, which is minimal, supplies and any outside services, which would be legal, the committee will have approximately exactly $180,883.09. Okay?
Any questions from the committee? There you go.
Bob, you mentioned to me the other day that there was an outstanding amount of $135,000 coming in.
Yes, and that's actually included. We've billed DWR for that. I received an acknowledgement from DWR last week that they have processed it locally, have sent it to Sacramento to the Finance Department for funding. So the $180,883.09 includes that $135,000.
Oh,
Okay.
okay, potential
Yeah.
revenue.
As much as I think we'd all wish it could be another 135 or a million.
So in this, just for clarification on this sheet here, your 180 is included in that amount you just said we billed for?
Correct,
Okay,
yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
It includes the receivable. The Finance Department is watching for the check to come in, and when it comes in, we'll deposit it in the SBF account.
Any other questions?
What's the handwritten 1,034 from FRC?
I'm sorry.
What is the handwritten 1,734.75?
Oh, okay, that includes that, and that was left, that actually was part of a contingency fund for the Feather River Center out at the Forebay. And when I actually closed out their grant about a month and a half ago, they had not used that little tiny bit of money. So it goes back into the unencumbered,
Thank you.
as would anything else that ends up not being funded. Okay.
Very good.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda and the quarterly financial update.
I'll second that. Call the roll, please. Did you vote, Si?
I'm abstaining, I wasn't here.
Okay.
I wasn't here.
Gotcha. No worries. No, I just clarifying. Thank you.
Yeah, takes three.
What's the status of the vote?
Motion.
So it actually takes three people
Okay.
to, Sonny, you can
I
actually
will.
vote on it
I will. Go ahead and vote for it, even
All
though I
right.
wasn't here.
if you read it.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Can you
very
hit
good.
that yes button one more time, Committee Member Brent? Thank you.
There you go.
The motion carries with 3 yeses and 1 absent.
Okay, next item is hearing of individuals on any non-agenda items in the audience. Anyone have a non-agenda item they'd like to come up and speak about? Do we have any cards?
We do not have any blue speaker card.
No speaker cards, okay. Well, with that being said, we'll move on to regular business. Item number 5 is titled, "The Request from the Oroville Area Chamber of Commerce for the 2023 Funding."
Okay.
Amber, is she presenting?
Actually, just kind of a little bit of an overview.
Okay.
The chamber has requested $30,000 from the SBF's unallocated funds. In the Regional Fund Strategic Plan and also in the settlement agreement, there's a provision that once the license is approved, the chamber automatically receives $60,000 each year for marketing and economic development activities. As we're all painfully aware, the license is still not approved, but in the past several years, the steering committee, on a request basis from the chamber, has actually allocated funds to them. And I included a spreadsheet or a listing of how much money the chamber has received over the past approximately 10 years. And with that, I think we would like to ask Amber to do a presentation. They did receive $30,000 last year. The year prior to that, they received $60,000. And they have always come back and given us an update on how the money was spent and the benefits of it. Okay, you're on.
I need the clicker. Thank you.
You push your little button up there, too. Okay.
Hello, everyone. So first, I have included the presentation of what we've done in the past year with the 30,000 we were granted. So I'll just go over some numbers with that for you, just so you guys can see what you're getting for your 30,000.
That's good.
So, let's see. Do I have it on? Clicky. Thank you. There we go. So first, I just kind of wanted to go over general what we do with the 30,000. So we use it to disseminate community information, including tourism information, community events, local business information, and general information about Oroville. We do this through our social media platforms, our email blast. Visit Oroville.com is our one website that was funded through SBF. Digital billboards, booths at local and regional events, and through our visitor center at the Oroville Chamber office. So I'm just going to break those down, what the numbers were for this last year. So in social media, we did acquire 2 other Facebook pages as we've taken on events. So we now have the Oroville Parade of Lights and Oroville Salmon Festival, as well as the Oroville Chamber of Commerce page. These numbers are just from the Oroville Chamber of Commerce page. That way I have a full year next year to tell you what the increases were in Parade of Lights and Salmon Festival. So our total followers is 3,486. We've had an increase of 417 followers in the last year. Total social media posts that just have to do with the SBF funding of what we disseminate due to this funding was 245 posts. Our average reach on each post is 839, and the highest reach we received on one post was 16,400. That way you can see people are looking at our post for this local community information. So the font's a little small, but here's 3 examples. Recent examples, so we shared the tour of lights from the newspaper, which invites people from around Butte County to come to Oroville to check out lights, and that one got over 9,000 reach. The second one is of the smaller version of our booth that we did for the YMCA's Trunk or Treat, and you can see an example of how we put out brochures and disseminate the information through events like that. And then the third one was the museum Trunk or Treat, which is that one that gained 16,400 reach. So next, that similar information is what we distribute through our email blast as well. So total emails that were just focused on Oroville community stuff. So I'm saying that this doesn't include like me sending out business tips from the chamber or member updates. If it doesn't have to do, if it's a business only, those are not included in this. So we did 49 total emails, have just over 1,000 subscribers. Our average opens is 161. Average click rate per email is 15. Now, there will be an increase in subscribers. We have a new contact sheet on all 3 of our websites where people can sign up to start receiving these emails. So I gotta start manually entering them in, so there will be an increase in that number. And then digital billboards. So in 2022, for the digital billboards, the SBF contract funded billboards for the 5 Oroville community events: Wildflower and Nature Festival, Feather Fiesta Days, 4th of July, Salmon Festival, and the Parade of Lights. And with Lamar, who took over Stott, part of their contract for the same price is they will also design the billboards for us. So that's some of the work they did for us last year for the SBF contract. So disseminating information, this is where we get booth space specifically to talk about the Oroville community. That smaller picture is a picture of Eric and his wife Tammy at the International Sportsman's Expo this last weekend. We also did booths last year at the Arbor Day Festival, the Wildflower and Nature Festival, Juneteenth celebration, 4th of July fly-in, the Feather River Show and Shine, and the YMCA Trunk or Treat. We are looking into also doing booths at Chico and Paradise events to start expanding our reach on sharing information about Oroville this year. And then the website, visit oroville.com, which is our tourism website. So total for 2022, we had over 31,000 unique visits and over 46,000 page views. The peak seasons of these are the community events. So May for Feather Fiesta Days was a peak, July for 4th of July, and September for Salmon Festival. And then lastly, our visitor centers. So at the Oroville Chamber office, not only are we open for our chamber members, but thanks to SBF funding, we're able to distribute tourism brochures in our lobby and outside of our building. We just installed new brochure holders outside that look much nicer than our past ones, and those are usually emptied a couple times a month from people taking that tourism information. And then we also provide the benefit of a place where people can come in person, can email us or call us to receive up-to-date tourism and Oroville community information. So I wanted to show you guys all those numbers of what we do. For the 30,000, I will say in comparison, if we are not granted the 30,000 this year, the chamber will have to change its approach and start becoming, we promote Oroville Chamber members only. And that'll have an effect on the tourism. So for example, visit Oroville, I'll have to change the website to just have evergreen information, because then we don't have the funding to keep it updated. Same with social media posts. Like, for example, we love promoting downtown Oroville's events, but only a couple downtown Oroville businesses are chamber members. So we would have to start looking at an approach of, okay, now we can only promote these 7 businesses from downtown. We can't promote First Fridays anymore because that's what this SBF funding is for, is to promote the Oroville community. We do have the tourism dollars from our DWR contract, but that one is a very narrow window. So they only let us promote 4 of the 5 community events, market through that fund, along with only promoting like the forebay, the lake. We've even asked in the past, like, can we promote let's say, parade of lights through this fund, and they go, pretty much, if it doesn't touch the water, no.
Yeah. Got it.
Any questions?
Yeah, a couple of, I'll ask, any committee members have questions first?
I have a number of questions. Number one, I think the supplemental benefit fund, and I was there through the negotiations, was established to mitigate for the loss of quality of life in Orville, particularly for our children. We had a river through the town, and that was a center for recreation. They took it. It was free. Any kid, any neighborhood could go down and use the river. They took it, and with it, our quality of life for our children. And I think that's what this fund was set up for, to improve the quality of life in Orville. And I think that's what we need to do with it. This past year, in the Hall of Fame dinner at Orville High, Dr. Kendall Thomas, Dr. David Daly, and Professor Christopher Dalder, all, in speaking about their career and success, talked about the river in Orville and catching crawdads, like we all did at Bedrock. That's what's gone when they took the water from around the city. And I think it's our obligation to spend every penny of this supplemental benefit fund to improve the quality of life for people in Orville and for our children. And furthermore, I'd say that subsidizing the business community by funding the Chamber of Commerce of Orville is not our obligation. And maybe it's written in the bylaws that it is our obligation. To me, it isn't. That's not what they took. They didn't take our chamber, they took our quality of life.
Thank you, sir. Is there a question too on top of that? Okay. Shannon?
I don't have a question, but I have a statement if
Sure.
now's a good time. I'm kind of on the side of Sunny. I feel like our community is lacking, and I haven't seen much improvement through the SBF fund. Our trails map that we have here that we got through DWR, most of these are gravel roads filled with puncture vines, potholes. They're not trails. Other communities like Auburn and Reading, they're building this trail infrastructure, and the city of Salida, Colorado built a standing wave in their town. Other towns are building whitewater parks. And then the chamber has something to advertise. Right now, all we have to advertise is a lake that dries up every few years. And I agree with Sunny personally. I'm not a business member downtown, but I'm somebody that was raised here. And I would like to see something happen. I would like to see us build some infrastructure and recreation so that we can actually be the outdoor community that we're advertising that we are. The Feather Falls Trails has been advertised on the chamber website now for the last 3 years after the North Complex is still closed. If people come here to ride our trails and their tires get filled with puncture vine and they get run off the road out in the wildlife area, they're not going to come back here. It's putting the cart before the horse a little bit. Also, I've been doing some studying, and in the one of our many plans, we have lots of plans here. The report, the Regional Fund Strategic Plan, it recommends that the marketing and Chamber of Commerce should get 6% of the allocated funds. $60,000 was based on $1 million budget. So perhaps 6,000 would be more appropriate. And I appreciate you. I appreciate what the chamber does for us. I'm not saying the chamber's bad in any way, shape, or form, but I agree this money should go towards development of recreation for the people that live here, not advertising to get somebody from the Bay Area to come up for the day and go, oh, hey, they had all these trails, but Those aren't trails. Go to Reading for trails. Go to Auburn. They just built a new bike park as well. They spent 800,000 and now they have a new bike park. We have nothing. We have river. I mean, we don't have nothing, but we don't have a lot to show for all this money that's been spent. We do have some good things, not all bad. But anyway, that's my comment.
Okay. I'll make a couple quick comments. One is, as Mr. Marciniak said, that this money that we have been authorizing to the chamber has been put in place for a stopgap between the license being issued, which the license puts a certain amount there. So the chamber elected to put this in place in lieu of. But at the same time, I also have to say something very strange, that the city of Oroville has a branding project going on that's trying to brand the Oroville community with some name, something. And then I sat through a report the other day that we listened, and they reached out to Sacramento and the Bay Area for a variety of things. And one of the questions they got in Sacramento is, where do you go for recreation in Sacramento? 55% of them said Nevada City. I looked around and said, Nevada City? What do I mean, just from my eyes, I had to call it, what's going on over there? I don't, and part of it is the closeness, because you go up I-5 or, 50, and Nevada City was their solution. We were down like 30 or 20, something like that. The numbers were very disturbing to me for a lot of respects, because we do have, like you mentioned, a huge amount of attributes for this. So that being said, I did have a couple questions for you just in your presentation. In the electronic post management of the Facebook and the other things you've taken up, how much time does that take? And then how many times a day are you actually responding? Is there a time period, or do you have it set up, or how many people are doing it? I don't know.
I will say I spent, besides working about 4 hours on this presentation, the last 2 days and this morning, just working on responding to emails, adding community events to the calendar, scheduling social media posts, and today, and we're not even in like Feather Fiesta Day season.
I hear you. I appreciate that. So it does take a huge amount of time to at least respond to those mechanisms. And I understand that world that we're in. I mean, the social media world is where everybody communicates. It's a necessary, I don't want to call it evil. Some would call it evil, some would call it great, but it is a necessary item. Plus, the other question I have on billboards, are we getting all the electronic boards in town, or just the 2 on 70? I don't know.
The 2 on 70.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other ones, the one on Olive Highway and the one on Oro Dam, are they connected to the same company, or are they different?
So the one on Oro Dam is, I'm not sure about Olive Highway. We get all 3 for the DWR funding, and then
Gotcha.
I use the 2 on 70 for the 5 community events.
Thank you. I was just trying to clear that, because I looked the other day, I didn't notice we had so many.
Yeah.
I was like, where'd that one come from? So, the other, well, let me ask Chrissy, your advisor, you have some comments you'd like to offer?
Yeah.
Or questions, more or less?
I appreciate, of course, just like everyone else has said, I really appreciate all the work that the chamber does to promote our community. I agree with your sentiments that our trails and our access to recreation has not met the expectation or the promises, and I absolutely share in that frustration. As somebody who also mountain bikes, new hobby for me. However, I've learned to mountain bike on these trails, and they're all right, but I've also begun mountain biking in other communities. And wow, Auburn, other areas nearby are absolutely amazing. And all of those trails are accessible for hikers, horses, all of those other things as well. And so I absolutely share in the sentiments that many of you guys have expressed. Reading this, I saw that its funds would be used to promote the historic downtown district using multiple resources of digital marketing. So it sounds like you're primarily promoting events. I know that the Downtown Association appreciates those events and the cross collaboration Downtown has also pledged during their last meeting to do an in-kind donation of additional marketing for those events as well. So it is really a tandem partnership, and I appreciate that. I know that Downtown does as well. You mentioned not being able to share First Fridays, things like that. I know that the Downtown benefits from those posts. Conversely, as also an organization, Downtown could join the chamber, and then those posts could be shared. So it's a little bit of a loophole for that as well. So I heard that you said that it wasn't a $60,000 pledge, but a 6% pledge.
It's originally
Sorry,
in
6%
this
pledge?
document, it's based on $1 million that we were getting annually, it would be $60,000, which is 6%. So if we get $1,000, that would be 6,000, to be fair and
Yeah.
to act within the agreement that was.
So I did the quick math of this year, we're expected to receive $135,000. And if my math is right, that would be $8,100 would be 6% of that. That's all I have.
Okay.
Interesting.
Well, before we ask for a motion, I should open it up to public. Is there any public comments about this particular item? Seeing none?
Can I make one more comment?
Please do.
In addition to billboards, working with parks, I know we have when you come into town, Feather River Parks and Rec District. I mean, can we advertise on that? Is there a way to maybe purchase billboards and put them on parks property where we can advertise and not have to pay the huge blip? It seems like there might be other avenues that could be pursued, and we could still get the same results and not have to rely on outside people and, giving somebody in the Bay Area the money for it as opposed to keeping it here in our community.
That's a suggestion. Might even be a suggestion for the rec district to change that billboard to electronic. That you do have one billboard that I'm aware
We
of.
have one billboard there, and we have all that property along Riverbend Park. It's all Highway 70 frontage. I mean, even if it was something, you guys put up a banner. And those blips you drive by, if you're not driving by at the right time, you totally miss it.
Yeah.
Something that was up there permanent would be,
Yeah.
everybody would see it.
And I'll probably take you up on that banner offer because we have the banners for the community events. So I'll let Eric know, hey,
Yeah.
we should reach out to Feather River Rec as
Yeah.
a place to at least hang
Collaborate.
those
Well,
banners.
and one of the, I'm not trying to throw a wrench in it, but I know you can't hang it on the state fencing, but you could hang it on the rec district fencing.
Put a few
Yeah.
phone poles in and
Right.
That would be
Yeah,
awesome.
it's just a thought pattern in that, so.
And I will say, any funding we receive, we'll use it in a way, so if we did receive any funding, my prerogative would probably be just to reduce it down to like those social media posts and emails, and that's about it. But I mean, we'll still use it, we'll still promote people. We're not gonna say no to any funding, but we just might not be doing it, we won't be doing as much of it as we have in years past. So I do want to clarify.
Well, I appreciate that clarification.
Yeah.
That's certainly a worthy thing. So I would entertain a motion from our members about this item number 5.
Well, I would move that we reject the application for funding from the Chamber of Commerce.
Do we have a second?
I would move that we stay consistent with what's supposed to be done and give them the 6%. And there's a lot of other stuff in here that we're not doing that we should probably be doing as well. And I would go along with we should probably,
Okay.
and I've got more for later. So,
So you're-
and I appreciate you, Amber.
Yeah.
I'm not
you're-
attacking you in
Yeah,
any way. I appreciate everything you do. I just want to see good things for our community.
Understandable.
Sure.
I'll withdraw my motion.
Thank you, Mr. Brent. So your motion is to award the chamber the 6% of what she just mentioned?
Correct, what Chrissy just came up with.
You got that, Bob?
I do, I wrote it
It
down.
was 80,
Yeah.
what was
We'll
it?
check my math.
Yeah.
'cause
Yeah, I
Okay,
will.
but we're clear that the 6% of that dollar amount,
Yeah, 135,000. One thing prior to your voting, you may want to maybe reword your motion to also include that the chamber returns with a new use of the funds.
Sure.
What they provided to me for the staff report is the assumption that $30,000 would be spent.
Gotcha.
And that's basically what Amber presented, how they spent the 30 last year. So you might want to,
Yeah.
not might, you need to
Right.
include that in your motion, that they would
Okay.
come back with a
I'll let
new
Shannon do
budget.
that.
I'll make a motion that we do the 6% and the chamber come back with where the funds are going to be
Okay.
allocated
There you
with
go.
that 6%.
Good idea.
And I'll second that.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Everyone understand the motion? Let's call the roll.
Motion carries with 3 yeses and 1 absent.
Thank you all. Good conversation.
Thank you, guys.
Yes.
Thank you, Amber.
All right, item number 6 is the 2023 call for ideas and projects. Mr. Marciniak, what do you have for us?
Okay, excuse me. At the last SBF meeting, I was directed to put out a call to the community, which we did. We did it legally in the newspaper. We also posted it on multiple sites, ranging from Facebook to the City of Oroville website. We provided information out. We received back 9 responses. And if you go to page 15 in your packets, the 9 responses, one of them was an idea only. And it was a good idea, and I'm sure Shannon liked it because it talked about cleaning up the Brad Freeman Trail, heading towards the tunnels where there are, I've walked that many times. It can be nice, and it can also be treacherous. If I was riding a bicycle instead of walking, I think I'd be more concerned. So that was an idea and the people that did it presented some pictures and thoughts, but they actually did not have a plan at all. The other items were all presented by the Feather River Recreation and Park District, and they range from improvements at the South End Riverbend Dog Park, South End Riverbend Ponds improvements, Riverbend Park Main Playground improvements, Riverbend Park Toddler Play Structure and Shaded Picnic Area, which would be an additional item at that area, Riverbend Park additional parking and a foot trail, Riverbend Park Safety and Security, the Nature Center additional allocation, which is a project that the SBF has previously approved, and it's been kind of dangling for a couple of years now. Victoria did bring all of us an update on that, and kind of exciting to see that instead of $1 million, it's a little over 500,000, which is still a lot of money. And then a additional disc golf course at the south end of Riverbend Park. So with each of those items, with the exception of one, they actually provided how they would match whatever grant that the SBF gave. And you can see that on page 15 on the right-hand side, a potential grant. And the grants ranged from 25% to 100% that the district would be willing to grant, should they be granted the funds to do one of the projects. Victoria, were you prepared to talk about each one of these, or?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I have some questions for you, so I'd love to have you come up
Okay.
and discuss.
And so the matter for you, the voting people to consider would be to accept the information that you asked for, which was ideas and potential projects. We did, in the staff report, give you the ability, if you wanted to approve a project as presented with additional information, request it, deny projects, or ask for additional information, or to ask to send this back out to the community for thoughts and ideas.
Thank you, Bob. Victoria, welcome.
Thanks for having me. So yes, we did provide you guys with a vast list of projects that we would propose to do with this funding if it did become available. I don't plan on going through each one in detail, as you guys can read that in the packet. However, I do want to advocate for the Feather River / Brad Freeman Trail project that we've committed to, of course, and answer any questions that you guys have on any of the projects listed. So,
Well, thank you. And, Mr. Brandt, are you up? Go ahead.
Yes. Oh,
There you go.
hit the opposite of the on. Yeah, I'm particularly disappointed that our non-voting members aren't here, particularly Aaron Wright.
Right. Could I jump in for a minute? Each of them did contact me and say that they were unable to be here. And Aaron is actually on a Skype call or a Zoom call, watching the meeting.
Well, and one of the reasons that I'm particularly disappointed is we've got the potential probably for the best trail system in the state of California, but we've got to kick them off their butts and get them to promote the resource that we have here. 141-mile Brad Freeman Trail, and that can be polished. We've got equestrian trails. We've got off-road bicycle trails. Walking, jogging, and running is the biggest single-use outdoor recreation activity of all. More people. Anybody can do it. It's free. Little kids, big kids, old kids. On the good trails, you can take a wheelchair. And we've got the potential. And they don't seem to want to promote it. They don't particularly want to see to become involved with us. Now, there was a committee set up when I was on this board formerly for the trails.
Right.
With Parks and Recreation, and I was a committee member on that. A meeting was never called. We didn't hold a meeting. I'm sure they probably haven't appointed anybody since I was gone and came back. But we've got to work with them. We've got to make our trails safe. They got to be safe to use, and they got to be safe from people that are there with bad ideas and causing problems. But we're not putting the effort and the resources in to make it a place to go and do things. And this trail to the old bathhouse, the connection from Veterans Memorial Hall to the bathhouse opens up from River Bend, from the 162 bridge, to guess what? The diversion pool. Because to get the bathhouse, you cross a road. The road is paved to the diversion pool. And that is less than a 15-minute walk from Veterans Memorial for most people. 5 minutes maybe on a bicycle. It opens up the diversion pool. It opens our resource up. And we're stuck. It's estimated 600,000. We've still got 240,000 available of our funding for it. We can add another 100,000 here, maybe 172, maybe 150, whatever, to get it as close as we can. Victoria's working her tail off, try and find funds in the community anywhere. But here we got this little link there that, as Bob says, you know, it's not easy to get to, and people
Right.
don't.
True enough.
Yeah. If I could jump in, maybe.
Yeah.
Sonny, so it had, that little link, unfortunately, has a history of issues that have prevented it from happening sooner. And they ranged from titles issues with small pieces of land You know, it unfortunately, and because of the way it hugs the river, it gets into a CEQA issue. There were a whole lot of things that had to be accomplished and kind of passed through. I'm not familiar with the parks thing that you've talked about. I think most of you are aware that I'm a consultant now. I retired from my job here at the city 5 years ago. So whatever that was about, I'll look into it and see why it just wasn't followed through. And if it's something viable and the committee wants to do it, we can do it. But this little piece of the Brad Freeman Trail does make it possible for somebody by foot, by bicycle, or by horse to basically transverse that whole area and get all the way up to the lake. So it's something for the community as well as a great thing for the chamber to promote for the visitors. So.
Yeah. Shannon, do you have?
Yeah, I agree. Working at the Nature Center, being a docent there for the last 3 years, school kids would come and they would have to park over by the Veterans Memorial or site there, and they'd have to take school children through the roundabout. I don't think that's a good idea, and I think it deters a lot of people from using those resources up there. We don't have enough money to complete the project. Another thing that I wanted to bring up in our little book, in our study we did, how we're supposed to financially deal with things. The state water contractors, in partnership with the fund administrator and steering committee, also have the additional responsibility of actively pursuing grant opportunities beyond the SBF. And if you get further into it, it talks about there are at least three possible sources of revenue that could increase the overall amount of funding for the SBF. And it goes in detail here how we don't necessarily get the money. DWR at any time can say they didn't generate the power, they didn't have the water to give to the state water contractors, and so they can just take that money away from us any year and we don't get that money back because they're not making the money. The first is the pursuit of additional grants. The state water contractors and the fund administrator and the steering committee voting members will aggressively pursue additional grant funds. State examples, state propositions, private foundations, et cetera, that will both serve to fund more projects and, at a minimum, provide enough additional funding to allow the SBF to keep pace with inflation. I think that's what we're dealing with here. Because of the amount of total grant funding is unknown at this time, it is excluded from the revenue forecast. However, securing additional funding through grants is critical to maintaining the value of annual payments. I think all of these things that were recommended with the trail, in addition to completing the Brad Freeman Trail, should be actively pursued by this committee through grant processes. I know Prop 68's coming out with their 5th round of grants. I know it's not a guaranteed thing, but if we can do multiple at once, gravel the road up to the base of the dam, complete the Brad Freeman Trail, and whatever else, I think that's a great option. To use the $173,000 and still not have the funding to complete the project, I don't know, and I might be totally off here, and I'm open to suggestions, but to me it seems like we should have been pursuing grants all along for a lot of this stuff, and that's part of our problem is there's no guarantee that we're going to get anything out of the state. As we've seen in the first 50 years of their FERC license, did we get anything?
Not a
And
lot.
the next 50 years, I mean, we need to figure out another way to make things happen around here.
Thank you. Go ahead, Sonny.
Again, they're not here, and they're our partners, and it doesn't make a good partnership. But one point we didn't cover is that this supplemental benefit fund was for projects outside the FERC boundaries. So that request for funding from this body is outside what the funds were set up for. But it's their responsibility. And we all have got to get on them. And they should be right here with that list. And we should ask them to show up at our next meeting and respond to every request on that application. We want to hear why those conditions exist.
Okay.
But I don't know how we can make them come or cooperate.
Well,
We don't need me talking to them, probably.
right. In their defense, the advisors attend every meeting, almost every meeting. That this is strange today to not have one of them here.
Right.
I kind of flash back to 5 years ago. I can't recall any meeting that they did not attend or send their alternate. So they're here. I'm not sure how you're going to solve all these problems that currently exist. And
One step at a time.
the biggest part of the problem is that the license is not approved or signed by FERC, the Federal Energy
Sure.
Regulatory Commission. That's the stumbling point. The looking for grants, to answer your thought, great idea. When projects have come up in the past, we have looked for matching funds from a grant, and there had been some talk to hire a person who only does grant sourcing, and that person would do it for SBF City and Feather River Recreation Park District. But to my knowledge, it never got off the ground. No. It just didn't happen.
Victoria, I have a couple questions for you.
Okay.
How much of you got a grant from the SBF for a dollar amount to do the preliminary work? How much of that do you have left?
So we received, and Bob could correct me, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me. I believe we received around $260,000.
Correct.
And out of that, we have $237,000 left. And the rest of those funds are essentially frozen to any administrative costs. So that's really, truly what we're looking at as far as, monies towards the project.
And Bob, we have 100,000. Is that the dollar amount we
Well,
have in play?
what we have is, what was offered for projects and ideas was 100,000. So the committee and our attorney, Scott Huber, would advise you that the way this committee has been structured, always has the right, if they have a majority, to vote and do something. So you have 100,000 available. You can't spend every penny that you have in the bank, which would be 180,000, or you won't be able to function.
Sure.
Without the license being approved. So somewheres there's a sweet spot between either the 100, which leaves 80,000 out there unencumbered, or you can go up to close to that amount. That's just my thought.
Gotcha. So, and I'm just trying to narrow it down, because number one, I completely support this project, the Brad Freeman Trail, because I think it's business we need to complete. Just that, we've already plugged away at it, and I want to applaud you, because I've been around long enough to know the detail, the work that you got to produce this. Thank God. Very good. Excellent.
I have a
Because
few other documents, but they're a couple hundred pages each.
Yeah,
I didn't think
no,
you guys
I-
needed
I-
all the construction
the complexities
documents.
of that complexity of that section of the river, I could worry out for another hour telling you all the details. It's ridiculous, from the Spanish land grant that goes to the center of the river to the deeds that came from the Gibson family, and the whole thing. It's I don't want to say convoluted, but it's complex.
Yeah.
I applaud the Recreation District to prepare this and be ready to do this. My only problem right now is we've got to find some money. And I totally support this project. I think that we should probably prioritize this project, as the two other committee members have said, because that's the link that's the missing link. And it really honed down on me when I listened to the branding report and the data analysis, and they said that Nevada City was their 60% place to go and have recreation. I'm going, really? I mean,
They've done a lot to their trails up there.
well, yeah, but
A lot of mountain
it's
biking
just,
trails.
yeah, so That's an easy tell to me that, certainly what the others have said is certainly a worthy idea. If we move the 100,000 toward that, my rough figures are that we're still a little short.
Yeah, we're definitely still short.
200.
So I'm just doing some quick math here, it's just before I can, so we still need another 261 to complete this plan, as I'm looking at it. I'm just trying to get myself in a ballpark mode. Frankly, I would be ready to entertain a motion for the 100,000 to go toward the rec district for this project.
May I speak?
Yes, please.
Before you entertain a motion? What I wanted to just touch on is I understand that the funds are very limited for the SBF committee and that this is kind of a difficult situation to be in. And I think that we want to advocate for this project a lot if money is available, right? If it is actually available and you are going to be distributing it, we want to make sure that we stay focused on the commitment of this project, of course, and just trying to push it along as best that we can. I think that's important, not only from the committee standpoint, but also we're actively pursuing state and federal grants to complete this project. And, I think that if they were to look into the committee activity and see that you guys weren't, necessarily supporting a project that's pending and asking for additional funds
Right.
elsewhere, that could potentially shine a negative light on the project. So if there were funds to be distributed, I would hope that they would go towards this project, but also understand the, the situation that SBF is in when it comes to limited funding. And I also wanted just to note and express some appreciation with state parks, especially Aaron Wright. He actually helped me a lot when I took on this project, when it came to understanding the scope of the work, understanding the engineer documents, as well as what's required for the actual construction of the trail. He's been really instrumental in that. Not only that, but helping point us in the right direction when it comes to state funding opportunities. So grants and other sources. So I do want to state that he's been extremely supportive to us through this process, and they've also expressed support in our funding, efforts. So letters of support potentially and other things that they can help with, so.
Well, and I would add too, that if I remember correctly, the original project was the rec district received the funding and then State Parks was going to put their trail building crew on it, which the consequences of budget. Yeah, that got busted out. So
Yeah.
agreeably, you are correct. There has been, a partnership here. It's just been lacking here and there. I would also add that I'll be encouraging the city to support this project, obviously. It's a great project for all and inclusive. One of my priority lists is that bathroom at Nature Center. It's got to be fixed. It's got to be fixed. That's another story. That's the city's deal, but that being said, I also want to say the rest of your projects presented are all worthy projects. I mean, any one of those could be a great one, and it serves this committee to make a priority, and that's what serves the community. So consequently, I'll entertain a motion to move the 100,000 to this project.
We could devote money to the project, but the project's not going to get done until the rest of the funds shows up.
Well, but like we said, if we don't show the interest, and the fund will sit in the bank account until we got enough to do it. I mean,
Correct.
that's the simpleness of it. But right now, I think it's a good idea.
Well, then with what Bob said, I will make a motion that we use 150,000 to the trail project.
Do we have 150,000?
Are they
Or
authorized to
100.
make that motion, or?
I thought it was 100.
Well, you have a
It's too
motion
close
on
to
the
the cup.
floor, so, Mr. Pittman, you need to either ask for a second or have the motion revised.
Well, I think under the-
150 is going to drop any potential available funds that the SBF has to 30,000.
To 30,000?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's also going to be held in the bank until this project runs.
Of
so
course.
We could always pull back if we need to.
You
Good.
make, well, if you're making a commitment of 150,
Hun-
that 150 is going to be held in unencumbered funds encumbered
project.
funds towards this project.
Right,
We basically prepare a legal contract.
sure.
The city, as the administrator, signs the contract, as we've done in the past. District, as the proponent, also signs it. All these contracts have a window,
Commitment window
a
time.
sunset clause.
Right.
They have to be completed within a certain amount of time, or they have to come back and ask for renewals.
Right,
We have renewed the Brad Freeman project at least twice, I believe.
right.
And it's kind of bumping up against a third time. Whatever amount you come up with, if you do that, I will go back to the attorney, and we probably will restructure all of it into one amount.
Okay.
Instead of
Two different
little
amounts.
bits and pieces.
Two agreements, yeah.
Okay.
That being said, how's your motion? You gonna stand it or amend it? Go ahead.
Well, I'd like to hear from Bob is, can you survive on 30,000 in?
Me personally? No.
The office.
You know.
The office, yeah, yeah.
The administrative fees. He wasn't here for the previous meetings where we kind of discussed what
Yeah.
the SBF needed for administrative costs
Yeah,
over the next 5 years.
administratively, having, I've been doing this as a consultant for about a year now, a little less than a year. It's about 70%, 80% less than you were paying to have a full-time employee doing it. So the way we've been running it is working. If there's 30,000 left, I'm doing the math, and the FERC license remains unsigned, we can get through the next 3 years,
Oh,
okay?
Okay.
If we,
Good.
yeah.
yeah.
Thank
Okay,
you.
all right.
Good
Not
answer.
amending my. I'm
Motion
not amending
is
I just
to-
get nervous when the account's down to nothing,
We understand the banker experience in you.
Yeah, I have a,
So the motion is for 150,000 to move toward this Freeman project to the rec district. Do I hear a second?
I'd like to second, but Chrissy, do you have anything on this topic you'd like to?
Not at this time. Thank you for
Okay.
asking.
I'll second.
You second the motion. Any other questions about the motion before we call for the vote? Comments?
Oh, my comment is, I do also support this. I can't vote on it, but I do support
There
the
you go.
project. So put that in your grant.
Okay, I call for the vote then on the motion.
Motion carries with 3 yeses and 1 absent.
Excellent.
okay.
Thank you all. Thank you for the presentation. And again, well done.
Thank you so much for your support, and I'm available if you guys have any questions about this project. And as soon as I have, pertinent updates, I will be sending that out to you guys and providing that to Bob when it comes to additional funding opportunities.
Okay, you bet. All right, back to the agenda, which is sorry, my computer's reacting very slowly for me here. Steering committee advisory members and staff comments. Do we have any reports offered from any of the members not here today?
Not that I'm aware of. And my report is a monthly report that I send out to each of you as well as to the advisors and other interested parties.
Thank you. SBF chairperson call for any agenda items coming from this committee for the future?
I don't have any agenda items, but I would like to, I'm still confused. Everything said is relying on the FERC license. I'd like to see in the FERC license where it says the state water contractors can't supply us with a grant writer until the FERC is signed.
Good point. No.
I don't, a lot of this stuff they're saying they can't do until the FERC is signed. I haven't seen it in
Right.
anything, and I've been digging through this stuff.
I think there's a difference between can't and won't.
And yeah, I think that needs to be clarified, and they need to start saying won't as opposed to can't.
I would add that we'll, let's compose a letter to state water contractors and CC it to FERC saying that we need some help and go from there.
Okay.
Well,
in particular to the grant writing capabilities of one project that we're working on. See if we can focus them on one project.
They've got up until 5 years. So if the 50-year into the 50-year license, they're supposed to supply us a grant writer
Right.
for 5 years until like the next
Right.
5 years before the license ends.
Yeah.
Well, if
Yeah,
this
we
never
had-
gets signed, we'll never get a grant writer.
Yeah, just institutional knowledge, history on this. Prior to Tim Haynes leaving, who was the State Water Contractors representative, we were working on getting they weren't going to provide a person, but they were going to provide funds. But then Tim left State Water Contractors, I think he retired.
Yeah.
And I can't really speak for the last 4 or 5 years, but I'd be happy to draft a letter. Would that come from you, Chairperson?
Come from this committee that we're
Okay, all
looking
right.
for that specifically.
And is the committee comfortable with a letter being sent without physically reviewing it at a meeting?
Send everybody a CC copy once we
Okay,
get it done.
all right.
Yeah.
All right.
The other item I'd like to add to this call for agenda items is to actually set up what Mr. Brandt brought forward, and that was a subcommittee to look at the trails, administration, management, who's the safety responder. I recall his discussion, and I don't believe we've ever had that subcommittee meeting, but we'll have to go back and look. But the main purpose is to find out who's supposed to take care of what part of the trail.
Right.
I mean, that would be the first thing, and just make that as a committee purpose.
Okay.
Who takes care of what part of the trail, and then go from there. And trail and or trails, because we have many. And
Right.
I think that would be something for you to set up and establish. Any other agenda items?
Mike on, okay.
Go ahead.
Couple of items. One, Eric C., at one of my last meetings here, said, Sonny's going to be happy. We're going to do a project on the diversion pool Hall Road. And we're going to build an entry that meets the FERC license to give car top boat launching in the diversion pool on the east side. Thank you, Eric.
Yeah.
Now, I've missed the meeting since then. Have you seen it?
The only thing I know that's up there on the road is there is a modified ramp off of that road into the water. And by modified, it's the concrete blocks, so you can drive up to the water with a boat. If that's what he's talking about, I know that's there. Other than that, I have seen nothing else.
No, they're
That's been there
building a
for a long
road,
time.
Oh, there
an
are?
entry road
Oh, I haven't seen that.
to get down. Yeah, well, I went up there the other day, and they've got, the huge parking lot that overlooks the diversion dam. Beautiful resource for our community. The gate has 8 locks.
Yeah,
You can't get in the parking lot. You can't get to the restrooms.
right.
You're supposed to be able to take your horse out of the trailer there.
Yeah.
6 locks go on a bar that you can use any one of them, and then they got a chain around the post with 2 more locks on it.
Well, I think that could be another purpose of that Trails Committee. Number one, the safety and who owns it, and then how do you operate things? That could be something to add to that trail map so that we get the details in there. That's a good idea. All right,
And
go ahead.
the other thing is Aaron, I think, is a great guy. I've talked with him. I think he wants to work with us. I don't know why we haven't gotten more cooperation with state parks, but Aaron's a good guy. I think we should, though, get word to him, whether it's telephone conversation or another letter for Bob, to tell him to send, I guess he has that application. We want him to be able to respond to each item on that request for funds for trails within the state water project. Just, we'd like to have him make a report on these items.
Can I share that I am texting Aaron at this moment because he is listening?
Oh, wonderful!
All of them happen to be at a state water project recreation meeting, so that is in conjunction. I'll wait till Bob's done with his side conversation, but he did say that he's listening, and sure, he'll do that. Bob, many of these partners are at another meeting at this time. Can we ensure that future meetings of this committee align fairly well with our partners?
Yeah.
Before we move forward on the date?
Future meetings?
Yeah.
Well, we actually have set calendar meetings.
But they can be changed.
Yeah. Well, as she's saying, if they had this big meeting going on that draws our people away, let's try to coordinate like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Date or something change.
Yeah, we actually do have a representative here from DWR, and Raquel, and she could act, you want to go ahead and go up to the podium? She might have a couple of comments to make, but she can take the information back. I didn't realize she was here.
Sorry, this is my very first meeting. My name is Raquel Brio. I'm the new Public Information Officer for the Orville Field Division. So I replaced Liza Whitmore, who just retired. So Sunny, to your point about the entry road for boat launching at the diversion pool, I don't have any updates on that, but I will touch base with Eric and we'll make sure that we get you an update on that.
They're not going to put the ramp in the facilities that are in the agreement. They're just going to build the road when they go to work on the diversion pool fiber optics cable, I guess it is, that got broke.
Okay. I will get an update for you.
Okay.
And then I don't know if anyone has any questions about the Orville Reservoir. I can certainly kind of give an update on the current status if you're interested. If not,
Well, where are we going? Like to hear. Thank you.
well, so right now, I mean, obviously the January storms that we've had have seen a significant increase in the reservoir storage levels. So on December 1st, we were at 658 feet. And as of midnight on January 24th, we were at 801 feet. So that's almost just shy of 150 feet elevation gain. So right now we're at 2.2 million acre feet of storage, and that is 62% of its total capacity. So we do still have a lot of storage left to capture that continued runoff from storms from the snowpack. So we're sitting in good shape right now. We're doing minimum releases so that we can capture as much of that water as humanly possible and really improve, the lake levels at Orville. And then right now too, we have crews, our civil maintenance crews, going out daily on the lake to capture all of that driftwood to kind of, help with boating and recreation at the lake. So they've been out there. They have not had a day off since the storm started, and they're working to capture all of that driftwood. Does anyone have any questions?
Yes, I saw in the paper where you had zero release to the river.
We're at minimum, so it's 950 cubic feet per second.
Paper says zero.
We're at minimum.
You're taking it out of the after bay, fore bay?
I'm not sure where they're releasing from,
Because
but it's at a minimum. So our inflows right now are currently at about 7,800 cubic feet per second. So we're exceeding our outflows at the moment.
Any other questions?
I just have one question. I saw where they're going to be replacing some of the gate mechanisms. Are they going to lower the water to the level of the road, lakeside access roads, so they can work on the spillway again?
You mean for the hoist
The
systems?
hoist they're replacing? Or can they do that with the lake full?
So we have to wait until the lake elevation gets to 800 feet. And so we wouldn't just release for that. We would just wait until the water gets low. So when we have high flow periods, that might not be until July, but we have that in mind, and that's something that we prepare for.
Good.
And just one other thing I'm curious about is, has there been any studies done on the loss of acre feet capacity due to sedimentary deposits from all the recent fires and things that are happening around and the intrusion of sediment into the lake? Or is it still the same acre feet as when the lake was new?
I believe they did come out and do some LiDAR
Okay.
tracing, but I don't know if we have the results back from that
I was
yet.
just curious after the fires, how much actually was deposited in the lake.
I don't believe we have the results back yet.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Raquel.
Yeah.
Make sure that they get your
Welcome.
number here. and
I
wel-
gave it to
and
Bob.
Welcome, we'll look forward to seeing you. Thank you. Okay, good meeting, folks. I'm gonna look for adjournment next, correct? Unless we have anything else to do? All right? Where's that? You run the gavel. We call this meeting adjourned at 16 hours. Thank you all for coming here today.